Hey all, it's Matt, your average gamer. For today we've got something a bit different to dive into. We're going to talk about the most likely timeline for Elden Ring DLC. Lately I've had a lot of comments asking about when it will be out, and though we don't have an exact date, there's a very real timeline that makes a lot of sense. Before I continue though, I'd like to mention the VPN I use and trust, ExpressVPN. It's a great way to keep your browsing safe, and there's a discount link in the description below with 3 extra months free, so be sure to check that out. Back to the DLC and when it will be out. First and foremost, there's a few important things to talk about when it comes to FromSoftware and what we know so far to this point in time. Not a ton of info out there on DLC at this point, but there are some things that we know that we're going to dive into that can give us a better idea and at least a timeline, or at least an idea of what we're looking at in terms of when it will come out. And throughout this video, I'm going to show slides and a few different things on info we have, and we're going to dive into those details now. FromSoftware's parent company, I guess it's pronounced Kadokawa, I don't know the exact pronunciation of it, released a financial report on expectations between now and March of 2024. Elden Ring's DLC was not on the expected profits during this time for FromSoftware, meaning they do not currently have any financial expectations for the DLC until after March of 2024. They've also mentioned they're fully committed to Elden Ring's DLC and the future of the game and the franchise. This means updates will still happen for a long while, and the game will continue to receive quality of life improvements for a fair bit of time after the DLC as well. This is something to be excited about if you love Elden Ring. Now that we know Elden Ring's DLC release will likely be after March of 2024, we need to further talk about our timeline and the possibilities of an announcement and a release. Armored Core comes out later this month, and I know a lot of people are hyped about it, and that is huge for FromSoftware. This is a chance to bring out another successful title, and one that they'll likely want to separate from Elden Ring. By the way, I'm going to link some builds below if you're interested in any of the footage you see, and I've got 2 new builds upcoming soon, pretty much going to be this weekend most likely, that I'm really excited about. Can't wait for those ones, they're going to be a lot of fun, including the candle stand build that won the poll. But now it's time to talk about Armored Core before we can come to a consensus on Elden Ring DLC. Armored Core 6 is really important for the likely Elden Ring DLC timeline because of a few important things. By the way, I wanted to mention real quick, if you're not subbed, now's the time to sub if you love Elden Ring content, so definitely hit that subscribe button. It's not going to hurt to subscribe to this channel, support the channel out, and you'll get tons of awesome Elden Ring videos and upcoming Armored Core. I'm going to cover that too. I'm going to pre-order it. Hopefully, if I like it, I'm hoping that I like it, I'll be covering some Armored Core 6 as well, since it's also FromSoftware. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also keeping my hopes reasonable for Armored Core 6, and the reason for that is simply because Elden Ring was so good. I believe it really took them to such great heights. It's a fantastic game. It's probably my favorite game of all time, so it's going to be hard to reach that bar again. Now, on to Armored Core. Elden Ring DLC would take away from Armored Core 6's chances of a series revival. What does this mean? Well, Armored Core hasn't had a release in a decade. That's a very long time. To put it in perspective, the last Armored Core release before Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin came out, and way before Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne. Yep, the last Armored Core was 2013, so it makes sense that they want a successful revival to give us an announcement date after its release later this month. When will that be? My guess is we get a release date announced between September and December of this year. It would be wise for them to allow pre-orders by Christmas if possible, although we can't say with certainty given their financial expectations because it could add some additional profits, but even I think that may be too soon for that. A release window, we'll call it, can very likely be towards the end of this year, which means an actual release date is even further out. Elden Ring is an amazing game, and there's a lot to do, but I know some of us are thinking it's been a bit too long for DLC. Sure, there's a million builds to keep you occupied. Well, maybe not a million, but there is a lot of them. Certainly enough to keep you respecing and interested, but even then, we are mostly fighting the same bosses again and again. DLC is a breath of fresh air for the game we all need, that hopefully will have a boss run that involves a little less time on horseback between them looking at you mountaintops. So what about an actual release date? Now, originally when the release date came out in February, I was thinking later this year. My initial estimation was that it was going to be released sometime in November or December around Christmas time. I felt like that made a lot of sense, but as the year went on, we heard less and less, and we started to hear more about Armored Core 6. I started to think 2024 made a lot more sense. And 2024, I believe we can put that in a specific window too, which I'm going to do. And I hope I end up being wrong about this. If you ever hope you're wrong about something, this is something where, for me, I hope it ends up being sooner rather than later. But everything is kind of shaping up at this point to a specific release window, at least one that I believe in will be very, very likely for Elden Ring DLC. This is a common question I've been getting lately. That's why I decided to do this video, throw a couple cool clips together and put a couple slides in here and whatnot to give my opinion in everything I know about Elden Ring DLC at this point, because I know a lot of you guys are waiting and the wait may be a little bit longer because my estimation time-wise, I'm going to show you here, is a little bit far away. So, a DLC release date that makes sense with the announcement window being around November-ish, let's say, between September and November. I think the game will have the DLC between March and July of 2024. This, for me, is the most sensible timeline for Elden Ring DLC. In a way, I hope I'm wrong, but based on Armored Core 6 as well as the financial expectations for FromSoftware and their parent company, it seems like a very realistic timeline. This is a timeline that makes a ton of sense for me, and it could be far away, but not too far away for Elden Ring to be forgotten, and it'll still be fresh in people's mind as they continue to play this amazing game that we have in front of us. It truly is a great game. Speaking of which, it will have some downtime before all the DLC comes out, and there will be some silence likely around the time of Armored Core 6's release about Elden Ring, but have no doubts, DLC will be in mid-2024 the latest, at least in my opinion. The only situation I would expect for it to be later is if they had major setbacks, which I think would have been leaked by now. Barring major setbacks, this is a very possible timeline for Elden Ring DLC. I really hope I'm wrong here, as I've mentioned several times, and I hope it comes out sooner, but logic starts to kick in, and it being so quiet for this long makes me think Armored Core 6 must have its spotlight before Elden Ring comes back into play. DLC will be quality though, and hopefully will be a larger size version of the quality we got in Dark Souls 3, which has one of my favorite DLCs of all time in the Ring City. It turned a great base game into an even better game with that DLC, and FromSoftware certainly knows their expectations by now. They're going to deliver, it's just a matter of when. How big will the DLC be? Well, for me, I've heard some rumors and leaks, but I'm not sure, I can't confirm on all of this, but supposedly it was originally supposed to be 2 parts, now it's combined into 1. These are just rumors that I've heard. Again, I can't personally confirm this. It does make sense though, it'll likely be huge in size given how big the base game is. As I mentioned, it will be top-notch. This is going to be a top-notch quality DLC, no doubt. FromSoftware has a really good history with this. I expect it to take the game to the next level, quite literally, and give us another year or more of solid play, even for PvE in Elden Ring. By the way, I want to know your thoughts on this one as we show one more clip at the end here. I want comments on this one. Definitely give me your opinion if you have any idea of when you think the DLC will release. But as I mentioned, I think we're going to get a release date by December of this year, and then it's going to release in mid-2024 is my expectation. Also, let me know if you're picking up Armored Core 6, if you're looking forward to Armored Core, if it's something that you want to see on my channel. I've polled you guys before. It seems like the majority do want to see content for Armored Core 6. I'm looking forward to it. I hope that I like the game. It is really exciting, though. It is FromSoftware after all, so we know it's going to be good. In the meantime, we're going to continue to make crazy Elden Ring builds and do as much as we can, and since a lot of people, as I mentioned, asked about DLC or when I think it's going to be released, this is pretty much my final answer for now. I believe this is a solid window and a reasonable expectation for Elden Ring DLC with all of the information that we have, which isn't a ton of information at the moment, but it's enough to make a general consensus. By the way, this is a random glintstone pebble build. If you want to check this build out or any of the other builds out that are in the video, they're in the description below. I got a couple links there. If you haven't seen those videos, definitely be sure to check them out and definitely be sure to sub while you're at it. Real quick, I want to answer one more question, a common question. Another one that I get rather frequently is whether or not it's going to be paid DLC or free DLC. Given that a lot of DLCs for games now are paid, I think this is definitely going to be a paid DLC. It's going to be a fairly large expansion. It's going to cost them probably a decent buck to make, so it's definitely going to lean towards being a paid DLC. Just makes a lot of sense to me as far as the DLC being paid given the scope and how big we expect this expansion for Elden Ring to be. It's going to be a very large expansion for the game. Yeah, believe it or not, that's actually a common question. A lot of people ask me, will it be free DLC? I really hope it's free DLC. Well, let's be realistic about this. Look at their history, look at how things are as far as DLC goes, and we'll probably can come to that conclusion very quickly that it's going to be something that's going to be a paid expansion for Elden Ring, but it's going to be quality. It'll be well worth the asking price, I'm sure, given their history and how awesome their DLCs usually are, especially the Ring City and Dark Souls 3, which was amazing. I wrote down all the common questions that I got. I believe I answered all of them in this video. This is everything I have to my knowledge at this point and my general consensus for Elden Ring DLC and what we can expect in the future of the game. Thanks for watching this one. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on the window for Elden Ring DLC. I've been asked a lot, so I figured I'd finally make a quick video on it. So this is my expectation for an announcement and a following release date after that. I've got some cool builds upcoming this weekend and cannot wait for those. In the meantime, be sure to sub for Elden Ring content and updates. As always, we've been covering a ton of Elden Ring builds lately, and Armored Core 6 possibly when that comes out too. Looking forward to that. The Discord is in the link in the description below. If you need help with anything, definitely be sure to join that. There's great people on there. I can help you as well. If you have any questions, join the Discord. And if you're not subbed and you love overpowered PvE builds, be sure to check out all the awesome builds on the channel. Be sure to sub, and as always, I will catch you guys there.